The most powerful force on earth is a human soul on fire. You have a deep ache in your soul for something more, to come alive, to let your passion pour from you like an endless well. When your passion comes alive, the magnificence buried deep inside of you is unleashed. Gifts and talents you never realized surface as your life unfolds like poetry. You can do hard things. I can show you how. This is Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching, where I teach you how to heal yourself from the inside out. Hey everyone, welcome back to Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching. This is Erin. So today's podcast, and actually the next 12, I'm going to be going over each of the topics that I cover in my coaching course. My idea with this is that I can help the most people possible, and you can get a sampling of exactly what I teach in my course. So I hope that you enjoy these next 12 podcasts because they're really for you. My idea with creating these tools was that, there's only one of me, and these are the tools that I use with myself and with my clients. So if I can record it, if I can get it on video, if I can find a way to share it with people, then they can use these tools to find greater peace in their lives, solve deep mysteries within themselves, and connect to themselves and their community. So I hope that you enjoy, and let me know if you have any feedback. You can email me, Erin at erincoach.com, and enjoy. Hello, welcome back to Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching. This is Erin. So I just got done meditating, and it's pretty early. It's actually 5:55 in the morning, and I am leaving for my silent retreat on Wednesday. I do a silent retreat every year. Usually I do it in the Vipassana method, but they are doing mandatory vaccination requirements, and I feel uncomfortable with that. I believe it should be a choice. So I decided this year to switch it up a little bit, and I am going to the Art of Living Center in North Carolina. It's Boone, North Carolina. So I'll be sitting in silence there. It's a little bit different than the Vipassana method. We will see how it goes. Usually with Vipassana, I look forward to meditating 12 to 13 hours a day. I thought I knew what meditation was until I did that. And then I found how powerful it really is. It is like spiritual surgery when you're quiet for that long and all the dust settles, and then you can really get into some deep subconscious stuff that it's not even like you're consciously thinking about it, but just because of the power of stillness and presence with silence, you access some deep shit. And it's been one of the most healing experiences that I've ever had. So I do it every year, and this year switching it up. And I'm excited about a pranayama that they're teaching that I've read about, and my friend Chad Woodford, who I had on the podcast maybe 2 years ago, he said it's part of the Sattva Yoga. It's one of the Sattva Yoga pranayamas, but it's called Sudarshana Kriya. So I am very curious about how that will affect me, how it will go. I'm open to experience, and it will be nice to be the student. Speaking of student, I just had my 300-hour weekend with my students. Most of them have graduated with me, and all of them have had some sort of learning with me. There's 9 of them, and I had 2 that were making up some time from their 200-hour. And I taught them my body work. It was, people have said that, Erin, it's just something so intuitive to you, it can't be taught. Well, by the end of the day, they were all working on each other, and I had this sort of impromptu little, speech I gave that was about 10 minutes long, where all this information just poured out of me. And I was just looking around the room, and I remember there was one moment where, all their eyes are like just wide looking at me, and I was just passing down this information as far as like why it's important that we do this stuff for people, why it's important that we step up in the role to serve, why this particular technique is important for me to pass down, and just, answering any questions that I could. And it was like such a wonderful weekend. In my weekends, we always do a Sangha share, is what I call it. So we go around the room and we just share an experience we're having. And a lot of times we talk about uncomfortable things, something that is hard for us to deal with that maybe we don't feel safe talking about with anyone else, or, so we share those pieces of ourselves with each other. And as a result, everybody is vulnerable, but man, the bonding that happens and the closeness that you feel with everybody in the room is, when I started doing that in my trainings and my certifications, everyone became so bonded. So I'm just riding high off of a weekend. And one last thing I'm going to mention about that weekend is that I was able to present the official certification to two more of my graduates, Diana Hughes and Kat Fetzer, to my superstar teachers, that they're kind of like local yogi celebrities, and I'm very proud of both of them. So that was a real treat for me, just to kind of see them to the finish line, So today's podcast, I'm continuing with this series that I'm doing where I'm going over each of the topics that I cover in my coaching course. Now, my coaching course is ever evolving, just like how my yoga teacher trainings are ever evolving, but there's some things that are definitely going to continue being staples in my program, and I'm probably just going to add more and expand upon some of the other techniques. But the next topic that I'm covering today is emotional processing. The last topic that I covered was the clear formula. Now, if you're just coming to this podcast and this is the first one you're listening to, it's a standalone podcast. You can listen to it, get a lot out of it. But if you're curious as far as what's this clear formula, what's that about, go to the prior podcast maybe first and then come back to this one. But this one is still standalone. It's not like you're going to miss out on information from the first one to the second one. You will have a deeper understanding, is what I'm saying. So processing emotions is a topic that I cover in my coaching course. It's also a topic that I talk a lot about on this podcast. But it is so important for people to learn how to access their emotions and be able to experience what is true for them in the moment, what is bright and alive for them in the moment. Now, a lot of people are afraid of their emotions, right? So we do whatever we can to avoid them. And I had an experience recently where I had this sort of underlying sadness, and I couldn't quite grasp it because, sometimes life is really big and sometimes our emotions feel just overwhelming. The idea here is to change our relationship with our emotions and release resistance around the emotions so that you can actually vibrate with them, process them, like let it hurt, like let it go, and then you move on. So I had an experience where I just had this underlying sadness, and it was something that even with everything that I do, I couldn't quite reach. Life has been big for me this year. I lost my mother. I had my sister and niece stay with me recently to work on some things. I launched 2 new programs, and then I did a repeat of one of the new programs, which is my coaching course, which I filled up. So it's been a big year for me. So even though I do make time to grieve, I do make time to process, I coach myself, I feel like there's no replacement for actually being coached. And lucky me, I was in the process of graduating my coachee trainees. And one of my trainees, Diana, she opted to coach me for her final. That's an option for my trainees. And, I had this underlying sadness. And when we got to the root of it, there was the grief. And it came up and it was so big. And I realized that it was just a micro taste of a bigger grief I was going to have later in the week, where I held my mom's urns and Matt was half asleep and I put the urns in his hand with my hand, and I just like called upon my mother to come visit me and just to feel her spirit with me. And I don't consider myself a medium, but I'm very spiritual, and I believe, especially with a parent or someone that you've loved deeply, I believe that you can connect with their essence. And that's what I wanted, and it happened for me. And I was able to reconnect with that nurturing, mothering aspect. And anyways, my point in sharing that story is that the feeling was so big that I couldn't quite reach it on my own, And coaching myself, I can reach a lot of big things on my own. I've had big epiphanies. And the more that I sit still and be in silence, the more that those types of things are accessible to me. But sometimes I feel like you need some help. Like, we are not meant to be alone. We're meant to have help, right? We're meant to have someone to lean on sometimes. We're meant to have an outside perspective, because otherwise your ego will convince you that, like, nah, it's good, girl. I got this shit. And okay, sometimes it's great to be able to pick yourself up and handle things yourself, be a boss babe. Yeah, right. And I do that a lot in my life, all the time. But sometimes you need help. Sometimes you need a coach, and it's so nice to be able to let go of everything and then just let somebody else take the reins at least a little bit. It doesn't mean that you are checking out. You're very involved in the process, but you are considering different viewpoints and access points from a qualified professional. And so I did that, and it was wonderful. So being able to process emotions, part of it is changing our relationship with the emotion. So I mentioned about not resisting the emotion. I have talked to so many people that are like, no, I feel it. It's awful. If you think an emotion is awful, probably you're not allowing it. I'll say that again. If you think an emotion is awful, terrible, you can't stand it, I can almost guarantee that you're just not allowing it. You have a fear story wrapped around it to where you're pushing it away. You're adding all these layers onto it to where when you take off all the cloaks, it's actually just it could be big, right? It could be a big feeling, like that grief feeling I had. I was resisting it though. I was. My life, when I got down to the base of it, there was this voice in my head that was like, why are you still grieving? And even I lost my fucking mom. That's why I'm still grieving. And I believe that emotions sometimes have their own timing, right? I carve out time to feel my stuff, but still sometimes emotions have their own timing. And sometimes it's kind of stuffed down into your tissues, and you smell something, you hear something, you take a deep back bend, and all of a sudden, whoosh, it comes up for you because you have this phenomenon. It's called smriti. It's this body memory that you have within you. It's like why people take pigeon in yoga, and all of a sudden they're like, why am I crying? Because you have a body memory of what's happening. Or if you are in a situation where something, something nostalgic happened, like something wonderful. If I were to walk into my grandmother's house, she had a country house I was there when I was 6. I'd walk in, I would remember going down to the penny store and getting candy. Yes, I'm that old. I'd remember my grandmother brushing my hair. So because my body was in this space and I would smell smells and sense things, a memory would come up, right? So there's a Sanskrit word for that. It's pretty neat. Smriti. Almost sounds like smarty. Smriti. So emotions can be sort of trapped, stuck. This vibration, this energy can be stuck inside of us. And when we resist being still with ourselves, Or if we resist, like when a feeling comes up and we're just like, stuff it down. If we do that too much, then we lose track of what we're really feeling in the moment, what is bright and alive for us. So, okay, maybe I've convinced you and you're like, all right, well, Erin, emotions sound important, and maybe I have been resisting them, okay? Like, I admit it. Well, then what do I do about it? So one of the things that I teach in my course is, and let me just say one thing more, just to be clear, emotions are not thoughts. Emotions are a vibration that you feel within your body. Your body is a vessel, and it can be a container for this vibration, right? So just wanted to clarify that. So if I ask how somebody feels and they're like, well, I really feel that she didn't consider my feelings, and no, that's a thought. How do you feel? Well, I feel that I should have, no, that's a thought. How do you feel? What do you feel in your body? A feel is different than a think. I feel, breathe, connect. I feel sad. I feel angry. That is an emotion. That is a feel. Okay. So then what do we do about the feel? How do we reach it? So I do something called navigating the layers. To do this, we need to feel. And I know I keep repeating myself, but a technique that I often teach to help people differentiate between a thought and an emotion is to press your index and thumb together, breathe deep, and draw your awareness to that finger, to the index and thumb, and notice if when you place your attention there, all of a sudden you start to sense sensations. If you start to feel a tingling, warmth, even just pressure. Now we're getting closer to speaking the language of the body and being able to access emotions. And then if you can do that, like take that little spot that you just focused on and draw that same awareness to like your gut or your throat, or some people keep it around their eyebrows, or even down into your root. Once you do that, you are able to open up that area and then start navigating the layers. So you have to breathe, draw yourself into a comfortable seat. I find that sitting rather than just standing and doing this can be more effective, though I have done this on walks sometimes. I don't recommend starting with that, though. I think that's more advanced. So sitting, maybe laying down, sitting I think is better. And breathing deeply in and out through your nose, softening the outer edges of your body, drawing awareness into your body. And then once you feel like, yes, okay, I'm in my body, I can notice sensations, and maybe I can even notice emotions. Maybe I can't quite name them. Try to ask yourself, what am I feeling? What am I feeling, and where am I feeling it? And you can scan through and you can find the area where you're clenching the most, where you have the most resistance. And you can choose to start there. Or you can find an area that's a little bit softer. Can you name the emotion that's happening? Now, here's something I want to share. As I've done 2 of these certifications so far, I'm doing my 3rd one in August 20th to the 28th. And we're halfway filled. If you're interested in that, email me, Erin@erincoach.com, or you can go to thrivewitherin.com and you can sign up there. I do conduct interviews. So even if you're like, yay, throw down your deposit, I have people do that. You do need to talk to me because I want to make sure we work well together, right? So anyways, once you've dropped in and you're able to name that feeling, sometimes the feeling, and I allow this in my course, is rather than necessarily a like true emotion like sadness or anger or happy, there's kind of like a base line of what emotions some people consider emotions and what other people don't consider emotions. So I might consider stressed. Some people would say, that's not really an emotion. Yeah, but we know what you mean. And if sometimes it's harder to put a finger on what you're feeling if underneath that is hurt or sad. But that's the purpose of navigating the layers. Let's start with, yes, stressed. I know this feeling. I feel it in my gut. It's fast. It is spiky. If it were color, it would be red. The texture is hard, maybe bumpy. So as much as you can describe the emotion in like a tactile way, because we want to speak the language of feel, right? Then you're going to get a little bit closer to it, right? Because you are being intimate. You're being intimate with this emotion that you're feeling. What does that mean? You're being truthful. You're listening. You're being close with it. You're not judging it. You're being okay with it. And you're just observing. So once you do that, you draw in, you're like, okay, I think I'm getting this, Erin. Then you start to soften the outer edges of your body and around that particular emotion. And just imagine it spreading. Allow it to spread. And to help this process, breathe. Breathe in and out through your nose. Nice, slow, and deep. And expand your belly. And expand your rib cage. And you will find that when you do this and focus on this area, because you're feeling it and because you're bringing gentle awareness down here, you are sending this electromagnetic energy within you, which is a very powerful force you have within you, and what you focus on expands. So it will expand through your body, and I tell people to kind of spread it like you had this, like just a packet of butter on a piece of toast, and you like spread it all the way out to the edges so it's very thin, so you can kind of see through it. So you can see through it, and then you're going to imagine that it's so see-through and transparent that you can kind of use your fingers and pull the emotion one side to the other side, just like a silk curtain, and then gently walk through. What is underneath this particular emotion of stress? What is underneath there? Maybe it's hurt. Maybe it's sad. Maybe it's angry, frustrated. So once you get to that next emotion, what you're going to do is feel it. You're going to go through the same process. You're going to be still with it. You're going to breathe, and you're going to just try to change your relationship with it. If it's there, you've been resisting it, right? So now you can breathe and remind yourself that it won't completely swallow you whole. You're just allowing it to express within you so that it doesn't control you anymore. So that's an important thing to remind yourself. A little caution when you're doing this: if the emotion is so big and it doesn't feel safe to go inward, right? If we're dealing with trauma, things like that, we must create a feeling of safety first. I have different ways of doing this. There is a technique, I'm not going to go over it today, but it's called the dropper technique, where I use almost like a metaphorical dropper and help you to get used to or build immunity to, you can think of it that way, to these emotions. And so you change your relationship so that you're not so clenchy when they come in, you're able to soften around. So essentially, that is how to process emotions. That's one of the major ways that I teach in my course. Also, fun announcement is that I'm going to be releasing a course on Insight Timer within the next few weeks that is going to also go through all of the topics that I teach in my coaching course. So, I want to help as many people as I can, and this also gives you a taste of the course that I've developed. So if you are curious and you're like, you know what, I want to take this to the next step. I want to, go that extra mile, and maybe I even want to be a coach. I want to do this for a living. I want to do what you do, Erin. Awesome. Come learn from me. I will tell you all the things. I will share. I will help you develop any buried skills, talents, and you will have a spiritual community that you can lean on. And yeah, so, or if you're just like, no, I like what you taught me on here, that's free, and maybe I might do your course for a few bucks, but like, I'm not sure about that commitment. Hey, that's fine too, because you'll benefit either way, right? So if you want to take it that next step and make it a living, I'll show you how to do that. If you just want to kind of use this for you, you can do that too. So I hope that you enjoyed this podcast, and it is now 6:19, so I'm going to keep this a timely podcast. Wish me luck on my silent retreat. We'll see how this one goes. It's 5-day one. And yeah, I think that's it. If you are local, we are doing 108 Sun Salutations December 19th at Kava Social, which is a super cool place in Bradenton. So if you're local, you can come check that out. Starts at 5. It's right when I get out of my silent retreat. I'm flying in, have a few hours to chill, and I'm going to go do 108 Sun Salutations. So we'll see how that goes. If you are local, also, we have a yoga teacher training coming up with me. It's my signature program, and it is happening on February 25th. And we go all the way to the first weekend in August. So again, check out thrivewitherin.com or message me, Erin@erincoach.com. Have a fantastic week. Namaste. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to support the podcast and if it's helping you, please consider writing a review. You can go to iTunes or Google Play, go into the search bar and type in Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching, scroll down, and you can leave a review. This helps other people to find me as well as bumps us up in the search ratings. Also, this podcast is sponsor-free, so that means we don't receive anything for doing it. If you feel so inclined and this podcast is helping to support you and you want to return the favor and help to support any production costs of the podcast, feel free to give a donation to a Venmo link, Thrive Yoga Fit, or PayPal, Erin@erincoach.com. If you don't have the means, don't worry about it. We're not going anywhere. You're all good. But if you would like to give back, you can give back in those ways. Last thing, we have a coaching certification coming up, and it's 7 days of an intensive work, followed by a 3-month mentorship. You will not find another teacher that's more passionate and dedicated than I am to my students and their learning, and not just their learning, but the application and how they show up in their life. If you've been listening to this podcast and it's had a huge impact on your life, just imagine what it would be like to spend 7 intensive days with me and then a 3-month mentorship. You can check that out at thriveyogafit.com/coach-certification. Again, thriveyogafit.com/coach-certification. Thank you so much. Namaste.